Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for once again tuning into the African Reform Movement channel, where we discuss all things African reform with a specific emphasis on Ghana. As you know, my name is Uche, and I'll be your host. And we have our esteemed and distinguished teacher, Dr. Nii Darko. Let me just go through a few housekeeping things first of all. If you are on social media, and you'd like to connect with Dr. Nii on social media, he's on a number of platforms, as you can see here. These will be also on his YouTube channel. So if you don't catch it, no problem. You can take a note of it there. Once again, if you are going to follow us on YouTube, please ensure that you're hitting the notification bell so that every time we're advertising a new talk, you'll get notification of it, okay? But you must hit the notification bell and select all. That will make sure that everything we post, you will see. Also, if during this conversation you have any questions, please send them to the live stream because we want it to be an interactive episode. I want to give Dr. Nii the chance to hear what your thoughts and questions are so that he can answer them in real time. Okay? Also, Dr. Nii's books are still available to purchase at booknook.store/book-book-nii-amu-darko/. As I said, all of this information will be in the description box of his YouTube channel. Now, today we're doing something a bit different today. We've got a gentleman who Dr. Nii refers to lovingly as his political son. His name is Hubert Baidoo, and he is a very sharp and brilliant mind, and he will be able to really bring something to this particular conversation. He's going to do a conversation between himself and Dr. Nii, so please pay close attention. And I'm going to talk about education. The Aggrey of Africa, education in Ghana. That's a subject today, and they're both going to be really kind of like breaking down the pros and cons of such a system. So without further ado, let me bring on board our guests. Hi there, Hubert. Put your mic on. There you go. Thank you. Welcome, Hubert. How are you?
Hello, Uche.
Welcome to our channel. Welcome to
Thank you, thank you. I'm good. Yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. So before we start, please let the audience know.
Thank you. It's a great honor being here.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. So before we start the conversation, please let the people watching know who you are, what your connection to Dr. Nii is, and what your background is. So I'm going to hop off and leave you to do all that. Then once you've done all that, we can start.
All right. Good afternoon from London. My name is Hubert Baidoo. I might be wrong, but I think I'm the first guest here. I've been following this program since it started. I'm very, very honored to be here today, Dr. Nii Darko. Thank you so much, and Uche. Basically, I studied biology in the university. But when I got to my final year, I realized that I wanted to do business. So right after school and after national service, I started a small business with my friend, and then developed interest in politics. I think at the age of 24, I became a candidate for an independent candidate. Afterwards, I just decided to do my master's degree in international business. So I came to England, and here I am, being probably the first guest speaker on the Nii Darko show. It's a pleasure, real pleasure. Thank you.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. Now, I think that's a good description of the Hubert I know. Today's topic is very interesting, Aggrey of Africa. Aggrey of Africa, education in Ghana. I'll just give a brief bird's eye view, and then Hubert will come in and ask me questions because he's read a fair bit of my ideas on education in Ghana, and I'm sure you have problems with some of them because he went to the GHS, SHS system. I didn't. But I went to a system that can be very relevant to what is happening in Ghana today. as far as I'm concerned, education is transfer of knowledge, skills, attitudes, and everything from one generation to the other. And for it to be effective, this package you're talking about must be environmental specific, it must be cultural specific, and it must be defined by national needs. Above all, it must be sustainable. If you want to be like Singapore, or you want to be like Sweden, or you want to be like Switzerland, or you want to be like Cuba, then you have to decide how you're going to get there. Our education system, as we have it now, has no plan on getting anywhere. And it's very sad because Ghana is a country of Dr. James Aggrey of Africa, the African who taught Gordon Gordonsberg two things that Gordonsberg never forgot. When Gordonsberg was going to build Achimota School, he invited Dr. Aggrey to be the co-principal. Then Dr. Aggrey realized that Gordonsberg had planned to make Achimota a boys' school. You know, in those days, the patriarchal system of Europe, he wanted to bring it to Ghana. And Dr. Aggrey told him once, he said, when you educate a man, you've educated an individual. But when you educate a woman, you've educated a whole town. So this our school is going to be mixed. It's not going to be boys only. And he explained to Gordonsberg why that is so true. 50 years later, Gordonsberg accepted that. He accepted that. 50 years later, United Nations and his WHO came out with what you call the 7 childhood survival strategies. The 7 childhood survival strategies on how to reduce under 5-year-old mortality. And the first principle was maternal education. Aggrey said, if you educate a man, you've educated one person. But if you educate a woman, you educate a whole town. When WHO decided to come out with his 7 childhood survival strategy, how to reduce under 5 mortality in the developing world, the first principle was maternal education. Because everything else will follow from maternal education. If the woman is educated, then the woman will understand vaccination, the importance of vaccination, the importance of everything. Yeah, that's what Aggrey said. That's one thing he taught Gordonsberg. The second thing he taught Gordonsberg was the motto or the logo of Achimota School, the black and white keys of the keyboard. He said, if you play only black keys, it will be monotonous. If you play only white keys, it will be monotonous. But if you play both keys together, then you get the harmonious sound that we will enjoy. And he told Gordonsberg that Achimota School is a creation of white vision and black brilliance. So up to today, the logo of Achimota School is a black and white keys. And Gordonsberg was shocked that a black man could understand the world like that. Long before UN started all his funny charters about respect for this, respect for that, Aggrey said that in 1925. We are approaching 100 years. So how come that the country of Aggrey should be struggling for education? How come? Where is the wisdom of Aggrey? How come? Almost 100 years since he said these things, we are going backwards. So today, we'll talk about it. And my view about how education should be strategized and should be formulated and whatever. And the role of the state and the funding and all the things that Hubert wants to ask me a question about. So basically, here we are today on education in Ghana? Thanks. Hubert.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for giving us this insightful background about education in Ghana. I've been thinking about this since you introduced the topic, that we have an education system in Ghana, because what we have is not intended to yield a particular outcome.
That's right.
Why am I saying this? A system is supposed to be deliberate. In many cases, very artificial, and it's supposed to yield a particular outcome. But we don't have that in Ghana. So I've been wondering, how is Dr. Nii Darko going to create a real education system for Ghana, tailored to our needs as a society, as a nation, what we need as a country? How are we going to create that system?
Well, you see, like I said in my introduction, education is a commodity. And that commodity it's a special commodity because it's intangible. It's not a commodity that you can go and hold like pen or this and that, but it's passage of knowledge from one generation to the other. Now, to have a system like that, you must have end goals. And how you're going to use the system, you're going to create a system to achieve those end goals. I talk about 4 things. And the 4 things is availability, accessibility, appropriate, and affordability. These are the 4 A's of a well-planned service delivery system. Availability in the sense that before you educate somebody, the system must be available for people to be able to make use of. But being available is just one thing. It's good, but it's not enough. It must be accessible. Now, accessibility comes in 2 ways: physical accessibility and also passage accessibility. So if you are going to build a school for a community, you must build a school at a place that everybody will have access to. Once they are in the school, how do they progress from level 1 to level 10, or whatever level? That's the passage accessibility. In my time, there were at least 3 rites of passage. Common entrance will take you from elementary school to secondary school. O level will take you from secondary school to 6-4. And A level will take you from 6-4 to university. For those who are unfortunate to be in the middle school for long, they may have to write middle school living certificate as well. So for some people, it was 4. Now, 200,000 of us went to class 1. 32,000 wrote O level. And 8,000 wrote A level. And 3,000 went to university. So from 200,000, the number that went to university was 3,000. So you can see that there was no accessibility. And these people, we have a very funny system, or we had a very funny system. Now, when we went to class 1, only 1% of all pupils went to the private system. 99% was in the public system. That is 198,000 in the public system and 2,000 in the private system. I can tell you that at the time I went to university, the 198,000 was represented there by less than 1,000. And the 2,000 was almost all of them went to, or probably half and half. But when you have a system that 2,000 pupils, 1,500 will end up from 2,000 to university, and 1,500 will end up from 198,000 to university, then there is a problem. You see, we like Hubert, like you said, education has to be deliberate with stated objectives and stated goals in mind. Let's start from the beginning. In 1952, Kwame Nkrumah, realizing the difficulty we have, because at that point in time, everybody went through the public system and we're staying so long. People have to finish from 4 before they went to secondary school. It was too long. And he came with the idea of experimental school. Actually, this was also done by Awolowo in Western Nigeria. He came with the idea of experimental schools from 52 that would train children up to class 6, and from class 6 they will go to secondary school. Best policy so far. And the plan was to roll it out in 6 years. But what happened? It never got rolled out. People like Chachu Chikata, Fui Chikata, Nana Konedu, and the rest, they all went to experimental schools. We have one in Osu, one in Newtown, one in where else? Yeah, they scattered all over the place. And the plan was that, okay, we'll see how these people will go. And they went to secondary schools and they did very well. So it could have worked. But once we're in that period, then Nkrumah, after independence, set up the Botio Commission of Education. And the Botio Commission of Education came out with this grandiose idea of boarding school systems as secondary schools. You see, let me just give a very brief example. At the time of independence, we had 2 schooling systems in Accra. We had Achimota School, which was boarding, and let's say Accra Academy, Accra High, or Royal and the rest, which were day schools. So the decision was whether we should take the Accra Academy model, Accra High model, or we should take the Achimota School model. But the euphoria of independence, the feeling that the mind that was led by the white man will never get finished, we decided to go to the Achimota School model. And all of a sudden, you had these big boarding schools all over the place. But how many students could one school take? I'll give you a very brief example. So by 1960, almost when we're in lower 6, 1985, almost every school in Ghana was celebrating a silver jubilee. Everybody was 25 years old. Because all these big schools, you see, they were all built in 1960. Because at that time, hey, we have to do, Ghana, independent, we have to do all this kind of stuff. But the interesting thing is this. Castro came to power in 59. He also started his education revolution in 1960. Within one generation, Castro's system was based on the community day school system. Within one generation, Castro female literacy was 100%, male literacy was 100%. By the time I went to medical school in 1987, 27 years after Castro's education revolution, they had built 20 medical schools on that tiny island. 20 medical schools on that tiny island. At the time I went to university, the total number of students in the 3 universities of Ghana, the total number was 8,450. In 1987, there were over 20,000 foreign students in Cuba, including Ghanaian students. So the whole Ghana had 8,400. Yes, the whole Ghana had 8,450 students in university, and there were more than 20,000 foreign students in Cuba, because policy matters. And education is heavy financial, is heavy, capital intensive if you want to do it properly. But what works is where your capital goes. We put almost all the money in the system was absorbed by the boarding school system. All this on the money was absorbed by the boarding school system. So nothing was left to expand. Now, let me tell you, in 1960, Ghana's GDP was 1.22 billion. GDP per capita at that time was $183. We had similar population, yes, $183. So, contrary to what people think, we were desperately poor even then, but we never behaved like we were poor. These are the facts. Castro, Cuba, at that time, the GDP per capita was 465. We chose expensive boarding system. Cuba chose day system, although they were much wealthier than the average Ghanaian per capita. And the result shows. Within a generation, 100% literacy. Within a generation, 20 medical schools. Because the money did not go into sustaining unsustainable boarding schools. The objectives, you see, the problem of the African elite is that it cannot see anything beyond its nose. Oh, my children will go to Achman, my children will go to Wesley Girls, my children will go. That's it. At the time of independence, we had only 300 students in the University of Ghana. For 5.5 million population, that is nothing. Yes. No, you cannot do anything. Today, New Zealand is 4.5 million, less than Ghana population at independence. They have over 100,000 in university. So how could we compete? So, like you said, at the time of independence, there must be a deliberate plan on how to boost our university population. Because we know that nobody goes to university from the maternity ward. You have to go to primary school, you have to go to secondary school before you go to university. So immediately there must be a clear determination that in 5 years' time, this is what you are going to do. In 10 years' time, this is what you have to do. In 15 years' time, this is what you have to do. So that by 20 years' time, by 30 years' time, we're going to have this number of universities. This how much is going to cost. You just don't throw money around like drunken sailor. Building big, you see, people don't know that on the coast, and I'm talking of Greater Accra. Forget about the other place, because when you get a picture of Greater Accra very well, you understand the disaster. In Greater Accra, at the time of independence to the time that I went to secondary school, there was no secondary school in La. There was no secondary school in Teshin. The only secondary school in Nungwa was built by an individual, an illiterate called Kwe Nungwa. And there was one secondary school in Tema. No secondary school in Kpo. No secondary school in Pram Pram. No secondary school in Nungo. There was one secondary school in Adam built by Reverend Sabute from Methodist Church. That is Greater Accra. But I can tell that Laboni, the electricity bill of Laboni alone could have built a secondary school in La. The electricity bill alone. The water bill alone from Laboni boarding school could have built another day school in Tesh. And the people they employed and their salaries and things to work in the kitchen and things alone can build another secondary school in Bo. It was just unsustainable. No plan. No plan. And we haven't changed from that. Now, this is where my problem with the SHS comes in. The SHS is a repeat of what's the guy's name? Bochio's recommendation.
Yes, Doc, I was going to go there.
It's a repeat. You see, the reason why Nkrumah couldn't roll out the experimental school, and up to today, from 1952, there are still called experimental schools. I'm sure at that time your parents were not born, Hubert. 1952, they are still called experimental schools. Was because when both your secondary schools came on board and they built all of them, there was no more money. And for the first time, 1963, people can go and check all that I'm saying. For the first time, 1963, government was forced to start charging for textbook fees in public primary and middle schools. And for the first time since 1952, primary school enrollment dropped from 265,000 to about 250 something thousand. And the drop continued to 1970-72 when it went below 200,000. But there was no more money. And people could not pay for the textbooks. So it's rolling out the primary, rolling out rolling out the experimental schools, so that the middle school will be cut off the system, was sacrificed for the building of gigantic boarding schools that catered for only a small number of people. What Ghana needs. Okay, now let me go to the problem now. In today's Ghana, we have 5 types of public schools. University primaries, the armed forces ones, the experimental schools, the mission schools, and then the local authority schools. The first 3, university primaries, the armed forces schools, and experimental schools, they operate at the similar level as the private schools. Now, these are all funded by the states. And then we have the mission school. I went to a mission school. And then the local authority, which was the West, because even in our time, when we're going to mission schools, those that are going to local authority schools were carrying their own tables and chairs from home to school. So, in one locality, I'm talking of maybe 20 meters apart, we went into school. There were desks and chairs for us, and the local authority schools, Salem 1, Salem 2, Salem 5, Salem 6, they will carry their own chairs and things to school, and they will carry their own things back, and they were running shifts. We used to go to school morning and afternoon, but Salem 1 will go in the morning, Salem 2 will come in the afternoon. Salem 5 will go in the morning, Salem 6 will come in the afternoon. That is also a public school. And when you travel a kilometer or so, you go to Laboni Secondary School. And none of these boys ever dreamt of going to Laboni Secondary School, although it was on their land. That's the system. So we have generations and I'm not talking of far away place. I'm talking of Osu, the seat of government. That those who started class 1 and those who went to secondary school at all was less than 20%. 80% finished school in middle school from 4. Now, in our year, 8, let me see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 14 in our year, about 800 students wrote a common entrance. Only 14 passed from 1. Only 14 passed from 1. And all the 14 that passed from 1, they were from the mission school, Osu Salem, Osu Girls School, and Osu Day School. All, nobody else. Now, you see, the difference is that people don't understand our system. People are making policy about something they have not the faintest idea about because they never went through it. The problem of education in Ghana is not SHS. The problem of education in Ghana is the weak public primary school system. And the first, if somebody has money, if somebody has won lotto and wants to do something for Ghana education,
totally agree.
He has to go back to roll out the experimental school system so that every child who goes to school has equally fair chance of progressing through. That's where the money should go to. And that's why, you see, let me say this, the Presbyterians, right? The Presbyterians, when they came to Ghana in 1928, by 1943, they started school in Osu, my hometown. Osu Presbyterian Middle Boarding School and the Presbyterian Primary School were built by the Presbyterian missionaries from Basel in Switzerland. Now, when they built the boarding school in 1940, almost every important Ghana politician or Ghana statesman that you know, from EMP Sowa, Nyamo Olenu, Harry Sawyer, Professor Sai, Professor Ashite, and all those people, they all went to Osu. But the white man knew one thing. The white man knew that in a society, there are different levels. So whilst the boarding school was there, they also built Osu Prairie Day School, middle. So that those who could not afford the boarding school, they went to day school. In the same community, probably 200 meters apart, we had day school and boarding school. Osu Presby, middle, boarding, Osu Presby, middle. That's how you run a system. Those of us who went to the boarding school, we paid. When we went there in 1978, the fee was 150 cedis a term. Whereas those who went to day school, they paid 3 cedis or something, like any other middle school in Ghana. So it was essentially free. You have to make the choice. Whether you want to go to the day school and do not pay, or you go to silent boarding school and you pay. It should never be the responsibility of government to take people's children to school and feed them there and pay for them, whilst others are not having that benefit. There is no reason why government should spend $10, 10 cedis on one student and 100 cedis on another student. What's the justification for that? Because when government does that, government will never have enough money to expand access. Because the money is fixed. UNESCO says that every country should spend at least 6% of its GDP on education. The first time, so as far as I'm concerned, the only person who made that criteria was Kutu Achampo in 1976. Nobody else. Council spend between 10 to 12% of GDP, and the result shows. And the result shows. Before you talk about education first, you have to decide the GDP, how much you're going to devote to education, and where should the money go. And I'm telling you that the money should go to roll out the experimental schools, which were started in 1952, so that there will be no more local authority school whose children will never see the daylight in secondary school. They're also Ghanaians. And I'm telling you that even if we dedicate 10% of GDP to that, it's not going to be easy. Because the gap has been widening over so many years. But that's where the money should go. And we have the secondary schools. Like we have in Osu, we have the boarding, we have the day. Okay? Those who go to day, SHS day, they will go for free. Those who decide, make that choice to go to boarding, they will have to pay. So if government spends 100 cedis on a day student, government will spend 100 cedis on the boarding student, and the parents will pay the rest. Government cannot pay for people's children to go and eat. If they are home, they will eat. Government cannot do that. It's not done anywhere in the world. I mean, Australia spends almost 100 billion on education. Twice our GDP. Our total GDP. 25 million people spend about 100 billion on education. They don't have that luxury. If you want to go to boarding school, you go and pay $30,000 a year. It's as simple as that. But we have created a middle class welfare system. All right? That's what you do. That's what you do. So that we send the ministers and MPs send their children to the best secondary schools because there is no more money to develop the public system. They send their children there and they channel themselves straight into university to the preferred courses they want. My idea about education is completely different from that of Nana Akufo-Addo, or for that matter, that of John Mahama, or that of NDC and that of MPP. They have on the faintest idea what they are doing. Because I know, I grew up with people, 80% of those I went to class one with in Osu did not go to secondary school. Because the subjects that were used in the common entrance were not taught in the public schools. Can you see? I mean, have you ever seen something like that before? We have public secondary schools and we have public primary and middle schools. To go to secondary school, you need to pass common entrance. But the subjects that were used to run the common entrance were not taught in public schools. So how are they going to pass?
Wow.
That's what we went through.
All right, Doc. I think your submission so far has been about the statistics of education in Ghana, which is very brilliant. Because first of all, if we don't have the data, we cannot even begin to decide the direction that we have to take.
Yes.
However, I see that accessibility, availability, affordability, and all the A's that you've explained address only one part of educational need, which is the literacy.
No,
what
actually,
I don't see is
no,
you talking about our curriculum and how to build a national identity.
Yeah, that's about the problem which I haven't discussed. I talk about accessibility in terms of physical and the passive, but I'll come into appropriate, the 4 A's: available, accessible, appropriate, affordable. The only one I've been speaking about is the appropriate. Okay, the appropriate then comes straight to the curriculum. What should the curriculum be like? What doctors per population we need? What carpenters per population we need? What masons per population we need? What electricians per population we need? What seamstress or tailors per population we need? What lawyers per population we need? Now, that is part of the deliberate planning. And you see, it becomes very hard when the economy is not expanding and everybody is pigeonholed to look at it as my son has to be a doctor, my son has to be a this, because that's the only place he can get job readily, and that's the only place the job is secure, this and that and that and that. But the economy itself is not expanding to absorb some other areas. So again, you have to plan. That there must be a plan for economic expansion. But you have to know deep down in your heart that this country cannot move forward if we don't have mechanics, car mechanics. So it must be part of the curriculum. And I can tell you that wherever you go, when you take 10 children and start talking to them, immediately you know who is going to do this, or who can do this, who can do that, who can do. And that's also part of the guidance, because the whole structure will have to be sure that children are made to realize their potential, and they must not be made to feel that without doing this particular thing, they are useless. So the appropriate, we can talk about, if you read my book, With No Africa, you see 15 pages of this there. 15 pages. Even the subjects that will be taught at every level, everything is there to make sure that there is diversity, to make sure that every talent in the community is harnessed. So yes, we talk about the structures and the assets and all those things, but also we have to be appropriate. Like I said, education has to be environmental specific, it has to be cultural specific, and it must reflect national needs. That is the philosophy. Talking about it in the minutiae will take the whole day, but the principle is that a champion tried, in all fairness, with the Kofoda sector, Ghana, he tried all those things, but that it needs more than that. It needs a whole mindset change, because somebody say, "Oh, you are sending your son to go and do medicine. You're telling me my son should be a carpenter." So we need a big conversation, but everything comes from leadership. The way leadership will explain these things and how you let them understand that. In Australia, I have my friend, a plumber. He earns about $150,000 a year. Electricians make money. But you see, when the economy is still, when the economy doesn't grow, when the economy is still, now that you're in London, you can find out how those traders make. Find out and come and tell me. You see that they don't stress about going to school too much. They finish year 10 or year 2 or whatever. They go into apprenticeship.
Absolutely.
Apprenticeship is formal. Apprenticeship is formal. A boy came to me, one of my patients came, "Oh, Nii, I'm not writing year 2. I said, "Well, I've got I want to be an electrician." So he left year 11, like SHS 2. He's not going to SHS 3. He went straight 4-year apprenticeship. He's certified. He will start making money. Builders, everything. You see, we need a system that recognizes that no country moves forward without the middle level manpower, which actually is technicians and traders. So everything is there. Everything is there. Yes, that we cannot talk about all those things in details. The reason why we cannot do all these things is because we always put the money into one basket, boarding secondary school. That's it. We can't free. And that's why Cuba was able to do so much, because he freed money by having the day school system. So money was freed to expand university, to improve primary school system. You're not doing anything. You're not doing anything. So 1973, Achemo started the Jobo Commission for educational reforms. So 1966, we had a Kwapon Commission. That was, forget about that. Nothing changed. Okay, it came with all sort of ideas. Nothing changed. Nothing worked. Hubert Baidoo came. Then he brought the Jobo Commission, 1973, to review and reform education in Ghana. And Jobo was the first one to bring about this JSS and SSS system. Again, when Jobo started and he brought the thing up, I think the first group was in 1975. Again, they went through the pilot project. We have Kimbu, we have Jowulu, we have all these selected JSS schools. Before the first group will finish in 78, Achempo was no more. And that also was not rolled out. It took 10 years before this issue was revisited under Jero in 1987. Now, what that has done is that it's taking one of the exams out, the common entrance, the rate limiting step is taking that one out. So anybody who finishes or goes to class 1 is guaranteed at least GSS completion. Common entrance is no more. Now, from JSS to SHS, they have what they call BEC. So they put another roadblock there. And you can go and check. Now, there's a big difference. At this stage, I think private schools, private JSS, they are about a quarter. In our time, it was 1%. Now it's about 25%. And public enrollment is about 75%. So the work, So the work is now less for the government, because for our time, because it was 99, probably doing it to be very hard. Now, a large number of children are going to private school, 25%, And there is a way to even encourage more to go. But that will be for another day. Here we are now dealing with about 75% of our population that we don't believe that they've got a good foundation. They don't have a good foundation. Go and see those schools. When we're there, RE1, RE2, Odale, JJ. These are all public schools, private schools that people just went there and after school, they are all going to a race course, or they are going to catch tennis, or they are, just he's also going to school. No plan, no nothing. Very sad. Very, very sad. What I'm telling you, Nanado will not understand because he did all his secondary school in UK. He wouldn't understand. Ken Ofurata, I think he was in University Primary or Achimota Primary. They went to Achimota School. They don't understand what I'm saying. They don't understand. But I know it because I went through it. And I know that this is where the problem is. We can talk about this education forever. But what I'm telling you is that giving power, I will devote at least 10% of GDP to education. Now, we now have 633, okay? Primary school, 6 years, 3 years JSS, and 3 years SSS. What I'm going to do is that if I give 10% of GDP to education, more than half of that 10% will go to public primary school. More than half, because that is 6 years. And the other 2 are also 6 years. But more than half will go to a public primary school to roll out the experimental school so that they are no longer experimental after how many years? After almost 70 years. So that we all have primary school system around the level of the armed forces. Everybody who goes in there will have the chance. And you realize that if we can do that, then there will be no need to do BEC, because the BEC is to test patients' readiness for secondary school. Because they know the foundation is weak. And I'm going to scrap BEC. Because now when people are all, because you see, the university primary schools, they were having almost 100% pass for common entrance. And today they're having almost 100% pass to SHS. So if you can bring the local authority schools to that level, then it's going to be 100% for them too. Because I can tell you, we all Ghanaians, nobody smarter than the other. So why do exams when everybody get 100%? You delete it. Everybody should go through. So you go to class 1, you go straight to year 12, which is SHS 3. And to go to university, like anywhere in the world, you got to be tested. But everybody have had a fair chance of going to the pre-university system. Or those who want to go to.
All right, Doc. You talk about. Yeah, you talk about accessibility and affordability, but you totally disagree with the free SHS program. And I ask myself, what is more affordable than free?
At the expense of rolling out an equitable primary school system. At the expense, because there's only one money. When you use that money for free SHS body SHS, when those who are going there can pay, then there will be no money left to help those from the vulnerable ones, the disadvantaged ones who are sitting down under trees, who are sitting down in classroom without chairs and are kneeling and they are writing with their bellies on the ground. Once you use the money, it's opportunity cost. All right? Yeah, I did a bit of economics, so I know opportunity cost. Once that money goes to here, it's not available for something else. That's the issue here. And the issue is not, what I'm saying is that, like the Presbyterians did in Osu, they built the boarding school, Osu Presby Middle Boarding School, and they built Osu Presby Middle Day School. The day school was free. Okay, so if you want free, you go to the day school. But if you choose to go to the boarding school, then you have to pay because it is a choice. So under my system, I'm going to have that. There will be day schools all over the place, and there will be the boarding schools too. You go to day school, day SHS is going to be free. But if you choose to go to boarding school, well, the same way your son will be eating at home, you'll be feeding your son at home, you got to feed your son there. You got to feed your son. It is morally indefensible that a state can spend 1,000 cedis on one student in secondary school and 10 cedis on another student in secondary school. How do we explain that? How do we justify that? Meanwhile, that money spent on that 1,000 cedis spent on that student in boarding school will not be available to improve the primary school system of the public sector. And the system continues. So now there's no common entrance, but that really step examination has been shifted to BEC. So go to Wesley Girls. The same people from the previous private schools are still populating the place. Go to Achimota, the same. In our year, the common entrance mark for Achimota was 272, and for Presec was 265. The whole of Osu, the highest mark was 259. So nobody from Osu, the seat of government, could go to Achimota School or Presec. Not one. And I'm not talking of a far away place where, no, I'm talking of in the center of Accra. And I can tell you that there are 59, the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, the ninth, the 10th. Top 10 in Osu all came from one school. They came from my school. The first middle school in Ghana. It was built in 1843. So you can imagine what happened to other public schools in other parts of Ghana. It's not good. It's not good. If I was born in another part of Ghana, I may not be here. And there are so many people better than me who are not here because of that system. And no country can progress with that kind of system. That is the point.
Okay. Dr. Nii and Hubert, thank you so much for that conversation.
All right.
It's been wonderful.
My final question, Doc.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I see that. Yeah, I see that. We've addressed the issue of proportional distribution of funds in order to have infrastructure in all parts of the country, all students anywhere in the country. But I came by a statistic, and I realized that it's not only about structure or accessibility. However, there is a poverty in many places in Ghana, where even if there is infrastructure, even if the education is free or affordable, children will still not be able to attend school because they have to go and work and fend for their family back home. And they don't have the luxury of time in school. So it's a really complex situation. And I wonder how His Excellency Nii Darko is going to address the issue from that point.
Okay, just to interrupt slightly here. Sorry, Dr. Nii, it's 54 minutes we've been on. So I'll just give you like another 5 minutes to answer that question and I'll come back, okay?
Okay, all right, okay, beautiful. Thank you. All right, good. Now, Hubert, I can tell you that when we were in primary school, right? When we were in primary school, some of my people, my mates, they were selling bread at the stadium. They were going to the primary school, 8 years, working It's been like that forever. People are going to catch tennis. People are going to race course to go and bet. Children. People from the fisher folk, they'll be selling fish. When the fishermen come, this thing, they will go and help them offload their thing, and they are giving some fish. They will come and sell them. They'll go to us selling them. People started working long time in the city, in the capital. Poverty is everywhere in Ghana. But the thing is this: when people don't even see the benefit of the education, they finish school, they sit down, they are unemployed. The motivation to go to school is not that great. So it comes in a whole package that needs a lot of working. I haven't spoken about female education. That will be for another day. Because this country is just going nowhere. I'll just say, so yeah, the poverty is there, but there must be inducement. They must see that if I sacrifice and go to school, this one will come out of me. That must be clear. And that is the work of government. So that will be sorted. It's also part of the plan. Now, female education, let me tell you something. In 1960, we have similar population as Cuba. Cuba today, as I'm talking to you, the population is 11.2 million. And the fertility in Cuba is 1.75. So every woman has 1.75 children. You know what I'm saying? Okay, that's the average. The fertility in Ghana, as I'm talking to you now, is 4. When I was in medical school, it was 6.4. So that explains why Ghana is now 30 million or plus, and Cuba is 11.2. Now, if I give you money, if two of you earn the same amount of money, but one has 10 children, another one has 3 children, then all things being equal, the standard of living for the 3 children will be higher than the standard of living for the 10 children. All things being equal. So it's not just doing things, but population control is also very important. And that is number 1, maternal education. Now, of my classmates in secondary school, only few girls have 4 children, no more than 4. Of my classmates in medical school, I don't know if only one has 3 children. So what it tells me is this: if you can push girls to complete SHS, then chances are that they're not going to have more than 3 children. My grandmother had my father when she was not quite 18. But if she had gone to school and she had finished at least SHS, she's going to have children at that age, and that pushes the thing, and that helps the family planning, because we cannot feed ourselves. It's obvious. We are struggling for everything. So female education, but I'll talk about it properly, how we are going to tailor it and make sure that it happens, because we have to do what you call means test. So many things. When you get a book, Whip No Africa, you see all of them there. Education for all. A lot. But time will not allow us to go into all these things. So we'll probably try and end it. But full education, like I told you, is the number 1 principle for the 7 childhood survival strategies. Female education. And Aggrey said it. If you educate a man, you educate an individual. If you educate a woman, you educate a whole town. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. And only a fool will invest in a place that will give him 1 house rather than a place that will give him a whole town. How does Aggrey philosophy inform our education policy? Have you seen one before? Since independence. We are talking about something completely different. You said that the university the education must have goals. I'm telling one of the goals. Cuba today, the under 5 mortality is 6 out of 1,000. America is 7. 1,000 children are born in Cuba, only 6 die before the age of 5. 1,000 children are born in Cuba, 7 die in America, 7 die before the age of 5. In Ghana is 60. Okay? In Ghana is 60, and the reason is poor maternal education. There's a difference. So there's a lot to go through. But I think we've gone almost 1 hour. So people will be getting tired. So probably try and summarize everything here and let those who have questions or comments to make to do so. Thank you very much, Hubert.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nii Darko and Hubert. Yes, you're right. It's now over 1 hour.
Thank you so much, Doc, for your time. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your very insightful questions. They were very good questions. I thank you for that. Okay, so I'll just keep you both on the line here. There haven't really been any questions, just mainly comments. Let's see here. You've commented on the free SHS system. Shika, I want you to comment on that. You've already commented on that. And Shika posted the other 2 comments. So the boarding school system has been and continues to be a poor and ineffective use of resources. And it's very negatively skewed against a public school system.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
exactly. In UK, Hubert, now you are not in London. Go and count the number of boarding schools there funded by the taxpayer. 0.
And Pastor John has just dropped a comment here. It says, education for all indeed, more so for females.
Yes. Because if you train one woman, you train a whole town. If you train one man, you train an individual. It's as simple as that. In the UK, did you go to a boarding school in the UK?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, if you're in Ghana, you would have gone to a boarding school. Paid by the taxpayer.
Yeah.
My children here are not in boarding schools.
I mean, I think that there was a certain level of prestige attached to going to boarding schools back in the day. Certainly over here, there's a prestige. They tend to be private. It tends to be like a higher level of education that they will receive. That's how it's perceived here anyway.
Yeah, but then you pay for it.
Yeah, you do. You pay for it. Yeah.
No, the taxpayer.
That's true. Yeah, you
do. Over here too, it's like it's prestige. You pay 40,000, whatever. I have farmer friends who send their children to boarding school because it's a thing that they do. Yeah, that's all right. But the total population of boarding school out of maybe 100,000 in the state of Victoria, maybe 1,000, maybe 1%. But they pay $40,000 a year.
Yeah, it does need to be paid for. It's not sustainable like that. It doesn't.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
No, when you have a very crappy public system. In our time, it was catering for 99% of the population. Today, it's catering for 75%. Totally useless.
I hear that. Okay. Hubert, any last comments from you before we wrap up?
Yes, I think Doc has really addressed most of the issues in education. The use real data is fantastic, and I'm looking forward to the conversation about the female education in subsequent episodes. Yeah.
Excellent. So much. Thank you, Dr. Nii. Thank you, Hubert, for joining us today, and thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thank you for your comments, and don't forget to like and share this video with everybody so they can get in on the conversation as well. Have a wonderful day. Take care, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.